You're achieving more than ever and feeling emptier than ever. Why? You hit your targets, you clear your inbox, you post your updates, and yet something inside you is still restless, still unsatisfied, still searching. You've been conditioned to equate productivity with purpose, but the numbers don't lie, and neither does your nervous system. You're burned out, not because you're weak, but because you've been sold a lie, that output equals identity. Let's get something straight. Being busy is not the same as being alive. You've been taught that slowing down is dangerous, that stillness is laziness, that if you stop performing, you disappear. So you keep moving, you keep producing, you keep checking every box like it's going to fill the hole in your chest. But here's the truth, it won't. It never has. You don't respond to emails at midnight because you care. You do it because you're afraid. Afraid that if you don't, someone will think you're not enough. You post daily not because you're inspired, but because you're afraid of being irrelevant. You take on too many projects not out of ambition, but out of fear of what it means to rest. And if you're honest, you can't remember the last time you did something just because it mattered to your soul, not your resume. This is the trap Jung warned us about. He called it the persona, the mask we wear to survive in society. The identity we construct to win approval, earn love, avoid rejection. And the longer you wear that mask, the more you forget who's underneath it. Maybe your persona is the achiever. Maybe it's the reliable one. Maybe it's the always-on hustler. Whatever it is, it's not you. It's a costume, built to be seen, praised, accepted. And if you're not careful, you'll start living for the costume instead of the core. Look at the world you're part of. Everyone's updating their highlights. Everyone's branding their life. But no one's asking the hard question. Why am I doing this? Who am I becoming in the process? You see it everywhere. The LinkedIn warrior who brags about 4 a.m. wake-ups and 80-hour weeks. The Instagram coach selling freedom while glued to their phone 16 hours a day. The YouTuber posting 2 videos a week, drained, uninspired, chasing numbers that never satisfy. This isn't freedom. This is performance. And the worst part, you know it. Deep down, you know it. You feel it in the exhaustion that sleep doesn't fix. You feel it in the emptiness after every big win. You feel it when the likes roll in and you still feel numb. Because the soul doesn't care about applause, it craves alignment. Jung wasn't against ambition. He wasn't against growth. But he warned, when your outer life outpaces your inner truth, you fracture, you split, you live in reaction instead of intention. And that fracture, that's where burnout lives. That's where anxiety festers. That's where resentment grows. The resentment of always being on and never being seen for who you really are. You're exhausted not from doing too much, but from being too much for everyone else. You're reacting to everything. Texts, emails, opinions, obligations. Every ding pulls your energy. Every notification demands your attention. You are scattered because you've never been taught how to guard your focus like it matters. And here's the wake-up call. It does. You've been trained to be accessible, responsive, agreeable, and it's killing your clarity. You don't have space to think, you don't have time to feel, you don't even know what you want anymore because your entire day is a reaction to other people's wants. And the worst part, you think this is normal. But it's not. It's conditioning. It's collective self-abandonment disguised as grind culture. It's performance addiction wearing the mask of success. And it's not sustainable. Not emotionally, not mentally, not spiritually. Here's what you need to hear. Productivity without presence is just performance. And performance without inner truth is just noise. You weren't meant to live like this. Checking your phone before your feet touch the ground, living by other people's schedules, saying yes out of guilt, doing more and feeling less. It's not heroic, it's not noble, it's not strong, it's survival. And survival isn't the same as living. So ask yourself, who would you be if you weren't trying to impress anyone? What would you do if you weren't performing? What would you stop doing if you weren't afraid to disappoint? Jung said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But you can't do that if your entire identity is built on proving something. You can't find yourself if you're always performing. This is your call to step off the hamster wheel, to stop confusing movement with meaning, to stop mistaking urgency for importance, to stop running from silence like it's the enemy. Because here's the truth you've been avoiding. Your exhaustion isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's your psyche screaming, enough. You don't need another hack, you don't need another app, you don't need another productivity system. You need space, space to feel, space to listen, space to exist without proving. This isn't about quitting your job or deleting your account, unless that's what you need. This is about reclaiming your inner compass before the world drowns it out completely. Because if you don't, you'll keep winning at things that don't matter and losing yourself in the process. And that's the real failure. You think you're working hard because you're disciplined, but look closer. What if you're overworking because you're avoiding something? What if the grind isn't about drive? It's about fear. Jung called it the shadow. The parts of yourself you don't want to face, the insecurities, the shame, the feelings you buried because they didn't fit the image. You disowned those parts, but they didn't disappear. They found another way to surface. And often they show up in disguise as your hustle. You stay late at work not because it fulfills you, but because deep down you fear being seen as lazy. You volunteer for extra projects not because you're inspired, but because you're terrified of seeming replaceable. You say yes to every request not out of generosity, but because you're afraid that saying no means you'll be forgotten, disliked, judged. That's not ambition. That's anxiety in a suit. Your shadow isn't evil, it's just unexamined. And when it stays in the dark, it drives your behavior without your awareness. You think you're in control, but you're being pulled by unconscious strings. This is why productivity becomes a trap. It lets you feel in control while avoiding the truth. That underneath the performance, you still don't feel enough. You're not chasing success, you're running from shame. You're not building a legacy, you're escaping a fear of being invisible. So here's a brutal truth. You don't have a time management problem. You have a self-worth problem masquerading as work ethic. That's what Jung meant when he said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Look at your behaviors. The way you reflexively check your phone the second you're alone. The way you feel guilty when you rest. The way you need to announce every win online, like it's your oxygen. These aren't just habits, they're patterns. And patterns come from somewhere. Your childhood taught you something. Maybe you had to earn love through performance. Maybe you got praised for being the responsible one, the achiever, the peacemaker. So you kept performing even when no one asked. And now, you've become addicted to it. Addicted to approval, addicted to achievement, addicted to proving that you're valuable by always being useful. But here's the cost. You've lost touch with what you actually want. You've outsourced your sense of worth to your output. And now, every day you wake up already behind. Not because the world demands it, but because your shadow does. And here's the kicker. This world rewards the dysfunction. You get promoted for overextending. You get likes for being online 24/7. You get claps for burning out quietly. Society celebrates the very patterns that destroy your center. Social media is the biggest mirror. You scroll through highlight reels, comparing your real life to someone's filtered lie. You watch people perform wellness while quietly collapsing inside. You see the smiling faces, the aesthetic workspaces, the early morning routines. And you wonder why your soul still feels heavy. Because no filter can hide fatigue of the spirit. You think staying busy is strength. But staying busy is often just a shield, a way to avoid stillness. Because stillness brings silence. And silence brings up what you've been suppressing. You'd rather feel exhausted than exposed. But let me ask you, how long are you going to run? You've made yourself so available to the world that you become unavailable to yourself. You answer texts during dinner, you check email during dates, you fall asleep with notifications still buzzing in your ear. You're leaking energy everywhere, except into your own healing. Let that sink in. You are not tired from too much work. You are tired from too much self-abandonment. Every yes you said when you meant no, that was energy lost. Every meeting you accepted out of guilt, that was a boundary violated. Every late-night hustle to prove your worth, that was your shadow saying, I'm still not enough. And it's not sustainable. No system, no planner, no caffeine can fix what is fundamentally a spiritual leak. Jung knew this. He didn't tell people to work less. He told them to work within, to confront the unconscious drives behind the doing, to ask, what part of me am I trying to fix through this achievement? Because if your goal is rooted in shame, then even when you reach it, you won't feel whole. You'll just set a new goal and repeat the cycle. So here's the shift you need. Stop seeing withdrawal as weakness. Stop seeing silence as absence. These are not failures, they are power moves. Stepping back is how you step into awareness. Slowing down is how you speed up alignment. Sometimes disappearing is the most strategic thing you can do. Let the world wait. Let the inbox fill. Let the pressure build. And don't respond. Not out of laziness, but out of clarity. Not out of defiance, but out of discipline. Because until you learn to sit in stillness without craving oil, you'll always be reactive. And reactivity is slavery. You can't be free if you're always triggered. You can't be sovereign if every notification dictates your emotions. This is about energy sovereignty. It's about psychic boundaries. It's about choosing what you give your life force to and what no longer gets to rent space in your nervous system. Jung said that neurosis is often the result of a lack of meaning. I'll go further. Modern neurosis is the result of performing for meaning instead of creating it. So cut the performance. You are not here to impress. You are not here to prove. You are not here to be everything to everyone. You are here to become whole. That starts by telling the truth, even the one that scares you, especially that one. Because the moment you name it, that's the moment you reclaim power. You're not broken, you're buried. Under obligations, under personas, under pressure to perform in a world that confuses speed with significance. But underneath it all, you're still there, waiting. Watching, wanting a life that actually feels like yours. That's what Carl Jung meant by individuation, the process of becoming whole, of peeling off every false identity, every inherited role, every performance mask, and finally meeting the self beneath all the noise. Not the self you show to the world, not the self you've curated for approval, but the real you, the one that's been quietly knocking for years while you kept saying, "Not now, I'm busy." Here's the truth. Productivity is cheap if it costs you presence. You can be booked, busy, and burned out and still be a stranger to yourself. You can be admired and applauded and still be empty when the spotlight goes out. But wholeness is not about applause. It's about alignment. It's knowing that your actions match your values, that your yes means yes, and your no doesn't need to be justified, that you're not living to be seen, but to see clearly. Let me say this plainly. You are not your inbox. You are not your followers. You are not your job title. You are not the brand. You are not the bio. You are not the number of unread messages or the metrics of engagement. You are a conscious being with limited psychic energy, and you've been spending it like it's infinite, leaking it into conversations you don't care about, decisions you don't own, and expectations you never agreed to. That ends today, because you're not here to be impressive. You're here to be real. The world doesn't need another high performer with a hollow chest. The world needs people who face their shadow and stayed standing. People who know how to hold silence without shrinking. People who move with clarity, not compulsion. Jung taught that the path to the self is uncomfortable. It requires confronting what's unconscious, unwanted, unprocessed. It's not sexy. It doesn't get clicks, but it's the only thing that heals. That's why individuation isn't about self-improvement. It's about self-ownership. You stop asking, how do I fix myself? And you start asking, what parts of me have I abandoned to fit in? You stop asking, how can I do more? And start asking, what actually matters to me? You stop looking outward for meaning, and you begin listening inward for truth. And that's where it all shifts. That's when you stop reacting to life and start choosing it. You respond slower. You say no faster. You give less explanation. You take up space with your full truth, even if it makes others uncomfortable. Not out of ego, out of alignment. You say, I don't owe my energy to everyone. I'm not reacting, I'm choosing. I protect my peace like it's sacred, because it is. You start treating your attention like it's your most valuable currency, because it is. You stop giving it to people who haven't earned it. You stop selling it to systems that profit off your exhaustion, and you begin redirecting that energy inward, into stillness, into silence, into integration. Let me give it to you straight. There's no version of your highest self that's constantly on edge, constantly accessible, constantly proving. Your highest self is present, And presence requires boundaries. You don't need to reply right away. You don't need to fix everything. You don't need to explain your silence. Silence is a complete sentence. Stillness is a strategy. Saying no is self-respect. Stop negotiating with chaos. Stop checking your phone in the middle of peace. Stop apologizing for not being available 24/7. You are not a machine. You're a psyche. And your psyche is screaming for sovereignty. Reclaim it. Start with one thing. Let a message sit unread. Let someone wait. Let an expectation go unmet, and notice that the sky doesn't fall. This is how you begin to remember. You're not here to keep up. You're here to wake up. Jung said, your vision will become clear only when you look into your heart. Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes. You've been dreaming through the lens of other people's goals. Now it's time to wake up to your own. This isn't about quitting your job or moving to the mountains. This is about showing up differently, wherever you are. It's about checking in with your psyche before you check your phone. It's about saying yes from your soul, not your shame. It's about scheduling time with yourself, not just your calendar. So make space. Every day, even 10 minutes, sit in stillness. No agenda, no performance. Just you, your breath, your body, your being. That's where your real answers live. Because once you slow down long enough to listen, the truth gets loud. You don't need to impress, you need to integrate. You don't need more strategies, you need more self-connection. You don't need to do more. You need to be more of you. And the moment you get that, the grind breaks, the trance ends, the shift begins. Let's end the illusion once and for all. Success without soul is just survival with better branding. You already know what burnout feels like. You've worn the mask, you've played the part, you've chased the dream that someone else sold you, hoping that maybe, just maybe, it would finally feel like enough. But it never does. Why? Because you can't trade your peace for validation and expect to feel whole. You can't outsource your self-worth to the performance economy and expect to stay sane. You've tried it, you've hit the milestones, you've collected the achievements like armor, but deep down you're still asking, when do I get to be me? Here's your answer. Right now. This is the moment, not next quarter, not next promotion, not when you hit that magic number in your bank account. You don't need more time, you need more truth. You don't need another achievement. You need a reset. So I'll ask you directly, what are you pretending not to feel? Where are you saying yes when you mean no? What parts of you are dying so that your performance can live? You already know the answers. Jung said there is no coming to consciousness without pain. But he also said, the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. So let's stop running. Let's get honest. You're not exhausted because you're weak. You're exhausted because you're disconnected from your needs, from your values, from yourself. Your body knows it, your nervous system knows it, even your calendar knows it. It's packed with things you didn't consciously choose. And here's the radical shift. You get to choose differently, but not tomorrow, not when things calm down, not once you hit that goal. Now, today is your reset. So here's what that looks like in practice. Delete one app. Yes, right now. The one that eats your time and distorts your self-image. You know exactly which one I mean. Remove it for a day. Watch your mind panic. That's the shadow detoxing. Cancel one meeting, the one that drains you, the one that serves no purpose except to keep the machine running. Cancel it with grace. You don't need an excuse, you need energy. Say one unapologetic no. No fluff, no sorry, just no, I won't be able to do that. Let it land, let it liberate you. Give yourself 1 hour of uninterrupted silence. No screens, no scrolling. Just you and whatever rises to the surface. That's where healing begins. Because if you can't be alone with yourself, you'll never be free in the world. And listen, this isn't about becoming antisocial. This is about becoming self-led. You don't need to abandon the world. You just need to stop abandoning yourself. Every time you betray your boundaries to please someone else, yourself gets smaller. Every time you choose approval over alignment, your light dims. Every time you check your phone instead of your own truth, your sovereignty slips. That ends now. From this day forward, you guard your energy like it's sacred, because it is. You don't explain your peace, you don't apologize for your pace, you don't prove your worth, you embody it. You stop over-explaining, you stop overextending, you stop trying to be impressive, and start being intact. Let the world adjust to your truth, not the other way around. You are not here to be consumed. You are not a product. You are not an algorithm. You are a whole human being with a psyche, a shadow, a soul. And it's time to start living like it. If the world calls that lazy, let them. If they say you're difficult, so be it. If they walk away because you stopped overgiving, let them go. Because the people who are meant for your truth will never require your self-abandonment. And your peace, it's not up for negotiation anymore. You've spent enough time surviving. It's time to return to center, to reclaim your clarity, to rebuild your rhythm around what matters. This is not about quitting. This is not about checking out. This is about choosing clearly, boldly, consistently, choosing your values, choosing your boundaries, choosing your breath, choosing the version of success that actually lets you sleep at night. Because if your version of success costs you your center, it's not success, it's sacrifice. And you're done sacrificing. So let's end with this. You are allowed to be powerful and peaceful. You are allowed to succeed and slow down. You are allowed to be driven and discerning. You are allowed to rest without guilt, to protect your time without apology, to walk away from what drains you, even if it wants to find you. This is the new standard: soul over spectacle, peace over performance, self over persona. And you don't need anyone's permission. Now act like it.